Hi, I'm Dave Sweet from Emerson Swan, and thank you for joining us today. Taco has their new zone controls, and today we're going to talk about the mobile app part of it. We'll be able to drill down in there and show you exactly how to go through screen by screen, how to make adjustments on that control. Just click on it and it will open the main home screen of that device there. And you can search for things. If it doesn't automatically populate with any control that's in range, down on the bottom you can do scan for devices, and it'll go out there again and scan for anything that's in range to have the ability to connect to it. In this case, we're connecting to this demo unit right next to us, which is an SR506-5. You can see that you're connected to it because right next to the picture of the control you'll see a little green light. So if I touch that control, it'll open the main home page for these zone controls. On here, we can navigate through and either name things or drill down and get into some installer settings. But if you had a larger installation with several zone controls on the wall and you don't know which one you're physically connected to, you can flash the LED power light. You could go over there and flash the power light. Now, if you get a dialog box that pops up like this right here and it says, hey, put in a password on there, we'll go over to the zone control panel and you'll see there's a QR code right next to the LED lights. Just hit the save button to save that password, and right here on the middle right is the ability to turn the camera on. So click on that, and now we'll go right over that QR code, and now we're logged in. You can see that the power light is flashing right now, so I know I'm physically connected to this zone panel right now versus maybe 2 or 3 other panels in the job right now. I can turn it back off, but it would time out after a certain time frame and go right back off. If we hit zone status on here, which is the top left button on here, I can go in there and I can see all the zones that are physically calling. I can see if I name the zones, I can see which ones are calling. You can see that there is a green light next to each one of the zones that are physically on. On the switching relays, we have over on the right is the force on command. In here, I can actually force a zone on. Say zone 2 right here, I can turn it on. You can see that zone 2 just came on, the light came on the panel here, and I've actually forced that zone on. So now I don't have to worry about running up and down the stairs to purge a zone. Very helpful for an installer, so he doesn't have to worry about, an extra helper or something. I can purge zones, I can do all that, all from right here. You don't have to worry about coming back to the job site that you forgot to turn it back off. It times out after 5 minutes. If we go back to that main status panel on there, I can click on other things, like we'll go to device notes on here, and it opens a dialog box that we can go and put some information on the control. This would stay with the zone panel, so any installer that happens to show up could see. Like maybe I raised the system pressure to 18 PSI because the 3rd floor radiators keep getting airbound. I'll type that in there and say, hey, remember to keep it set at 18 PSI. Or I replaced a certain component and here's the date I replaced it. Another unique thing we can do is do import export, and you have the ability to take information out of the control and save it on your mobile device. Remember, it's Bluetooth. It's around a 50-foot range that you can communicate with it. You don't need to have Wi-Fi nor cellular service around the control to make it work. So I always like to have the ability to keep the settings on my mobile device. If I do something involved, I want to have it on here. It saves it as a JSON file. I can open one of these files, take a look at it, see what it is, scroll through all the different settings. You'll also notice from this, there's a start import button. So I can actually take all these settings that I took off this control, put it on another control. So the idea is if I keep repeating or doing similar type jobs, I can just take it from one and repeat it on the other. We have device help. This is a place you can go and you can see get information, tech service, the number to dial. Click on online help and it'll take you to a certain part of the website to be able to see videos, instruction sheets. The other thing we can do is if we can have that PC 800-5 plugged into there and sensors connected, we can actually see water temperatures in real time. So if I had the boiler sensor hooked up, I can see the water temperature in the boiler. If I have the outdoor sensor, I can see what the outdoor temperature is. And if there's a call for heat, you can see what the calculated target temperature would be on there. So quite helpful in setting it up and confirming that that control is working. So again, just to underscore, this screen is only available when that card is plugged in and the sensors are connected. If we want to drill down a little bit deeper from that main home page, I'll go to device settings. In the device settings page, you'll see I have a bunch of different possibilities. The very first one says name and location. If I click on that, it'll open a dialog or a page there for me to make adjustments. I can actually name the zone panel and say where it's located. Maybe one's doing radiant floor heating, it's in the master bedroom closet. I can label that and hit save, and now any service guy shows up, he knows exactly where that zone panel is. If I click on zone names, it'll open a menu for me and I actually can put in unique names like kitchen, master bath, bedroom 2. There's a button that says firmware. I click on that, it'll open a menu that says, hey, here's the current version of the firmware, and do I want to check to see if there's an update. Also, the last thing down there, it says set new device password. You can put a unique password on here. There is a unique one on here, an alphanumeric, but here I could just like put the name of my company or something else and hit save new password, and I would keep that right on here. So if I click on reset the password, a dialog box will come up and you'll click on the little video to hit start and it'll tell you what to do. But in short, you're asked to turn dip switch number 2 on and then back off within a 30-second time frame. The minute we turn that on and back off, it resets back to the original factory password. If we scroll all the way down, we'll see there's a force all zones on. Unlike a switching relay, we have the option to be able to not only force individual zones on, I can force all zones on. If I click that, it just turned all the outputs on. So now I can purge, I can make sure every zone is operating before I leave the job. Very helpful for proving out whether things are working or not. It's also helpful if I'm doing a commissioning of say a ModCon boiler, where I may want to do low fire and high fire adjustments. If I'm doing my high fire, I need a good load on the boiler. So I can do this and it'll force all the zones on so my boiler doesn't time out or short cycle during this efficiency check on high fire. It'll time back out after 5 minutes, or I can manually just turn it right back off on there. If I get confused and I do some settings on here that I'm not sure the control is doing what I want it to do, there's a reset to factory settings, and that's like putting it back to like it was taking it out of the box. And from here, we're going to get into the real meat of the system, and that's the installer settings. Here we can go in and we can change the functionality of it. If we go to the top one, say outputs, in here on a switching relay, you'll see there's 4 outputs listed. The main boiler end switch, the priority boiler end switch, aux1, aux2. And on a zone valve control, you would actually have a 5th one, aux3. If we go to the little edit button over here, I can actually change the name of that output. So it's still going to reference, say, main boiler end switch, but imagine I was doing a geothermal or air-to-water heat pump where I'm doing heating and cooling, where the main boiler end switch may be just my enable the system. So this is my system enable. I want to label it system enable. I want certain outputs to be able to do that. And then maybe the priority end switch is my heat cool changeover. So I would name those. So here we're looking at the main boiler end switch. Right now, the default of the main boiler end switch says, hey, when any zones call, in this case 1 through 6, I'm going to enable itself. But imagine if you got a micro zone like zone 3 and you don't want to fire the boiler. Whenever zone 3 calls in the middle of the night, it tends to short cycle the equipment. So what I can do is uncheck default, check zones 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, hit save, and now zone 3 will not fire the boiler. It will use heat that's in the boiler or wait for another zone to fire to bring heat to that zone. It's just a great way to prevent, that short cycling of equipment for very small zones. We can actually do the opposite. If we get out of here, we could actually get one of the aux outputs, the line voltage outputs, to turn on a larger circulator output when smaller zones call. You could get into there and you could say, hey, only turn on aux 1 when certain small zones call, and I'll turn on a larger zone to be able to do that. What's the largest zone on most jobs? Is your indirect water heater. So imagine if I had a thermostatic mixing valve on an indirect water heater, I could turn on the indirect when small zones call. Remember, if the boiler's doing outdoor reset or on a lower water temperature for space heating, I'm not really going to overheat the indirect. So the indirect is acting like my buffer tank during smaller zones. So I have that option to turn that back on. We also have from that installer settings the ability to see what the dip switches are set at. Granted, I can't change them from here, but I can see instead of going down to crawl space or to a closet, I can just see how I set it. Now, if I do not have, say, pump exercise turned on or post-purge turned on, I don't see a menu. If they were turned on from this main menu right here, I would have the ability to do further adjustments. So imagine if I had pump exercise turned on the zone panel. The default on the zone panel is 30 seconds on, 2 weeks off. In that main page over here, I would see the ability to make a further adjustment on here. Down on the bottom, the last setting it talks about is the domestic recirc function. All the zone controls have Smart Plus logic built into there, which means it has the ability to do domestic recirc. If I hook up a sensor here, put that on the hot water pipe of your potable, wire in a recirc pump to aux 1, I'm going to be able to do recirc. And it will do it without the app. But if I download the app, I can get into here and now I can make further adjustments. I can adjust the on time, basically the run time, and the off period of time. I can also change it from, say, learn mode, which works great for a single family home, to pulse mode, which is good for like multifamily homes. Like people work shifts, get up in the night, take showers at all different times. I want to put it in there and maybe do a custom run time and off time to fit that multifamily application. There's also a temperature control card you can buy, PC800. Same thing, if I had that PC800 card plugged in and the sensors connected, I would have the ability to go through this operating mode menu and you would see I have choices in here. Right now, it only comes up with standard because this board does not have that control plugged in. So if I did, again, I would have the options and it would open more menus and more choices for you to be able to do those kinds of things. If we go back to that original screen that we were looking at where you're searching or looking to see those available devices, if we found that device out there, you'll see there's a star next to it. Right now it's gray. If I touch that star, you'll get a dialog box and says, do you want to save it? And it'll turn yellow. If you click yes, it'll take like a snapshot of all the settings, and now you have ability to look at that zone control. So from the very top, you'll see you have devices and save devices. If we now go over to save devices, it'll be that control listed on the top, SR506-5. If I click on it right now, I get all the same menus. If I go to zone status, I could get there and I see what zones here, but if you notice there's no light next to it because I'm not in real time. I just took a picture of it. So it's a good way for you to keep a copy of those settings a little differently so you could demo the control to other people. There's a gray dot next to that zone control being I'm not connected. If we went back to the original screen where we actually connected, there's a green dot next to that zone control indicating we're connected. So hopefully that was helpful for you. That was a lot of information. If you have more questions, I would suggest you talk to your local Emerson Swan sales representative, and they can help guide you through this process.